Welcome to another week of the Buffalo Game Space podcast. I'm Greg Giles.
John Futscher.
Tom.
Anthony.
We don't
What's
have
up,
last
guys?
names.
What's new? What's new with you guys?
Oh, do I put in my last name? Pismarov?
No. No, people know who you are.
You probably get doxxed now.
You can get weird
Whatever,
emails.
fight me.
That helps.
Well, that was fast.
Yeah, that really. I find that diffuses a situation on the internet.
So speaking of internet situations, one of us dredged an old game that is still online that hasn't been played
Final
in
Fantasy
years.
11. You talk about me. All right.
Yeah. So
Are we just going to jump right into it?
I'm just curious. I just want to get it in and out of the way because I saw you
right.
playing it, and then I was just like, man, I didn't even know people were still playing that game.
I thought, honest,
Yeah,
I
man.
literally thought when I saw you playing, I thought the servers had already been shut down.
No. People still play for it. Like, even pay for it, not play for it. Even like the server I was on, I think it's like one of the... Actually, I don't know how the servers work, but there's still quite a few people on it. Like, even when I got on, you could check to see how many people are online. There's like 838 people on that
Which
one
is
server.
not a lot of people for
It's not a ton of people, but I think the max server size is only like 5,000 people can be playing at once. I don't know if it ever got above that.
Max, how many?
5,000.
Yeah, that's
per
not a lot.
server.
per server.
Yeah.
So anyway, you used to play this game how long ago?
Like, I don't know, whenever it came out in North America. So that was like 12 years ago I stopped. But I never, I was always kind of on and off with it. I played it when it first came out. I think it came out like 2001, 2002. I don't know. It's an old game.
That seems
It came out before a while.
way before that. Way before 2000, like 2005 or 4.
Yeah.
It had
Really?
To be.
It
Oh,
had
yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been 01. That's way too early.
Yeah. And I think it had to be, yeah.
In 01, you're still talking like EverQuest and like that kind of stuff was
Yeah,
just,
that's true.
Tom, look this up. I don't have my phone on.
Also, I did just look up this. They did shut the servers down for the console,
Yeah.
but not.
Yeah, for the console, they just...
So anyway, you haven't played this game in like...
Initial release date was May 16th, 2002.
Oh, shit. See? That was
Damn.
close.
Wow.
We're all
So
right.
14-year-old game,
Yeah.
and you haven't played it in like a decade.
I haven't played it since 2008. Yeah, that's when I stopped playing. I never got through like the full game. I always sucked ass at it because it's a hard game, right?
Yeah, I've heard it's really hard.
Yeah, you can't play it by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I like so much about it. I
Right.
thought that's what was so appealing.
Yeah.
It's like, it is, to me, it's like the only MMO that I played. I haven't played a ton of MMOs, so I can't speak for all of them, but it's the only MMO that I played that actually like achieves what you would think an MMO would be, which is about like socializing with other players, grouping together, and just kind of like traversing like this, big and dangerous world, right? But I'm not going to go and explain the entire game. I could just jump into what I was doing yesterday. So I've been like looking for an RPG to play, and I was talking to you guys about like, what should I pick up? Final Fantasy Tactics? Or I was thinking about like picking up Final Fantasy X to play that. And I was like, I just really want to play 11 again. So I booted that up. And now like the game is in like easy mode, basically. They changed everything so it's easier to play by yourself, right? Like now you can go through that game by yourself.
Because they're trying to retain users, probably.
Yeah, and because like it's impossible if you boot up the game, you start at level 1 to get a party with people because everybody's still playing is max level, right? So you can't party with people. In that game, like you cannot solo above level 5, right? You hit level 5, anything after that you have to have a party of people. So if they didn't do that, it would have been impossible to level up anything.
Right.
If they didn't do a bunch of other stuff. But now that a bunch of the players are gone, like hunting the notorious monsters, who used to be like super hard to get, has gotten way easier. So
They're not being just raised every
right. So I
Second they appear.
Yeah.
yeah. So yesterday I booted it up, and the first thing I did was take care of some personal vendettas I had with some of those fuckers in the game that I could never get.
Yeah.
One of them was called a Leaping Lizzie, and it's in like the level 10 area. I remember one day we sat around like literally the entire day, me and my friend just trying to camp it out, and we never got it. Never. And now yesterday we sat around for like an hour waiting for it, and we got it in an instant because there was nobody else there hunting it, right?
Every time I looked at your screen, you were just standing there.
Yeah, there's a
and
lot
you're
of
like, this
standing
game
in
is
that
very
game.
fun. And I was like, I don't see it.
I think to me, like, it appeals to my my natural instincts to hunt. Right, I don't get that. Right, so I'm just sitting there. I'm waiting for this monster. I didn't even give a shit about the drop. I just wanted to hunt that thing and kill it. I really did. I'm like, I'm gonna get this motherfucker.
Yeah.
And it felt so good. I didn't even care about the boots. I don't think I needed them. But
Boots of travel?
Yeah, were they?
Basically.
I mean, what kind of boots are we talking?
They were leaping Lizzie boots. I don't know if they're as good as boots of travel, but
Probably not.
Nothing is.
Nothing is. So I would have to say no.
yeah. But then I did a second one, which is in a place called the Valkurm Dunes, which is basically hell in that game, right? In that place, there's just like a dragonfly creature you have to kill, and it gives this really awesome drop. It used to be awesome back in the day, right? But like you'd get parties, like each party could have 6 people on it. You'd have parties of people and massive amounts of people camping this thing, right? And it was almost impossible to get, right? You'd have to pull the monster first, kill it, and then hopefully get the drop. And then 1 out of the 6 players gets the drop, right? But when you have like 20 parties of people waiting around for this thing, right, to pop up so you can claim it, like it was impossible to get.
Is it just like whoever gets the last hit on it gets the drop?
No. So whoever hits it first claims the creature, right? Other people can't attack it. It doesn't work like, I think that's how WoW works. Anybody can attack anything at any time.
Yeah, but
right?
whoever hits it first gets it basically.
Right. So in this game, you can't even attack it if somebody else attacks it first.
All right,
so once you kill it, you might get the drop, and if you get the drop, everybody's got to do like cast a lot for it, right? Which is just a random number. Highest number gets it. Or like if you're working, with people you're like, all right, you take it this time. I'll take the next one, right? You figure stuff out that way.
Mm.
And that game you really had to work together. Like in that game, if you were a dickhead to other people, you'd get fucked eventually, right? People wouldn't work with you because it was a game that was so much about not being able to do anything by yourself, right? But yeah, so people would camp this thing out for like weeks at a time and still never get the drop.
Yeah.
I don't remember how long I did this one for, but I think I saw this one back in the day. I was like, I'm not even gonna bother with that right now, just because I saw like how competitive it was.
I can just see like the kind of like frustration and awe in your face. You're like, back in the day, it's like there's 100 people just sitting there staring at an empty patch of land, just waiting for this thing to appear. And the second it did, it's just a free for all.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then the second the first person hits it, everybody else is like, ah, damn it. And then they just go stand there and watch.
And now they
wait
have
for
to
the
stand
next
there and
one.
wait. And it could pop like, well, everyone's different, but it could take 5 minutes to pop again. It could take 6 hours. You never knew. And the thing was, like, also you couldn't walk away from your computer, right? Back in the day, like you had to have a ranger in the party because they could do like a area scan to see if that thing popped instead of like running around looking for everything, right?
Yeah.
So if you were the guy looking for it, you didn't ever want to leave the computer because you didn't know when the fuck it was going to come up, right? Like if you could be sitting there for 5 hours, run downstairs to get a glass of water in a minute and a half, and it could have popped in that time, and somebody could have killed it, and everybody would be like, "Yeah, they just killed it." And you would have missed it, right? You would have been pissed because you just wasted 5 hours.
I mean, the whole thing sounds like a giant waste of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think either way, you wasted 5 hours.
It does and it doesn't. I love that aspect about that game, that like the stuff people can get can just vary so much, right? Like the best players in the game had the coolest stuff in the game because they were willing to put the time into it.
That's what I loved about WoW is like when some items you got was like, it was a real achievement.
Yeah.
It was like I did a thing that most people are not willing to do,
right?
And don't have the like discipline or whatever to do.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I have proof of it. Look at me, I look good. I look
Right.
better than you.
No, it makes a difference.
I wish Jess was here because she's rocking
that.
like all types of like, I don't even know what the highest level, like
I'm
legendary
sure.
to
Yeah.
like the nth degree stuff.
Yeah.
And she tells stories of just like walking around just being like, yeah, what? Check this shit out.
I think the people who put the time in it should be rewarded, within the game. I think that's important, right? Because if you give everybody everything, it's not special anymore.
Right,
Because when you
right.
saw people with the
Right.
coolest stuff in the game and you were playing it, you're like, fuck. Like I wish I had that.
And that's
right?
what they really tried to do with, I remember before Destiny came out, like that was like the one thing they were like super harping on. They were just like, there's going to be stuff in this game that is going to like differentiate you, and like you're going to see somebody walking around like that Citadel type level. I still can't remember the name of it. I just always call it the Citadel. you're gonna see people walking around that who are higher level, and you're gonna be like, oh shit, you can tell that dude's badass because he's got like this crazy armor that you're never even gonna see.
Right.
And they hyped it too, like, you know,
It didn't work in that
2
game.
days
I
in,
think-
people are like level 25, and there's like, yeah, we all look the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well. I mean, Destiny's got a lot of, I think, fundamental problems with it, where the game's just people don't give enough of a shit about it because there's not that much to do in it compared to like other MMOs like WoW or Final Fantasy or even like EverQuest, something like that, right?
Is it-
So people aren't going to be as attached to their characters.
Is it still like that? Because I know it definitely was when it released, but they
Destiny?
Yeah, I've heard they've put a lot of like time
know.
and content in since it launched.
They definitely have. And again, we're
Yeah.
missing Pat and Jess. They know the most about all this stuff. They
Yeah.
played all the content to the point where like they've got top level stuff.
Yeah.
I know they totally reworked it with the DLC they put out. They reworked how the loot works and whatnot. But yeah, I can't. I still haven't gone back since, you know, I was in on that first wave of loot caving and nonsense.
Yeah.
And since then, I haven't really looked back.
But again, going back to like spending all that time to get a thing, there's also a very unique kind of reward you feel from that
Yeah.
you don't get from just in a lot of other things in games. The fact, yeah, I don't know, there's something very satisfying about it, and it can only be achieved through like a long,
Yeah. Pain and suffering.
yeah, right.
It's,
basically,
well,
yeah.
it's not even that. It's really kind of almost it's time and dedication gated, but it's one of those things that you can only get it when you make certain things like really hard to get and really rare, right? Like the second something becomes like even, you know, 5% of the population can snag it, like
Yeah.
it becomes common. Like when you have a lot of people playing and it loses that kind of luster. Whereas if you have like very unique, like 0.001% of people are ever going to even see this item, let alone get it, then when you see somebody who has it, you're like, oh shit, like check
Right.
that out.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you have to weigh that against, you know, you build all this content, you build this crazy item and thing that you're putting out into this game. All these people want it. Where do you draw the line? Do you want to make it so that 5% of the people get it? 10%
Right.
of the people get it? Do half of them get it? Or do you really want to make it just like this level of like desire thing that like almost nobody's going to get? And that's kind of it's a bold move to make because you're instantly shutting out 99% of the people
Yeah.
who are
Which is awesome.
who can't have it.
Which is very, I think like what I like about it is it's realistic, right? It pertains to what happens in the real world, right? People are willing to put the effort and time into doing something. That, you know, they're going to reap the rewards, right? So I think there's a really cool aspect to that.
Yeah.
And I love stuff like that in games, even though I'm not the person who's going to put all that time and dedication into it just because I have other priorities. I think
Yeah.
that's awesome to have that in there.
yeah.
It is a cool thing. It's just as a design challenge, it's always like,
Yeah.
are you willing to basically shut out like X number of your player base
Yeah.
to really appeal to that achiever player who's going to go all out and spend 80 hours staring at a blank field waiting for a 1% chance of finding a monster that has a 1% chance to drop an item that has 1% chance of being the highest level of it.
But like to me, like yes, because I would say like in a game and in life, it's the yearning that really people chase. You know, like getting the thing is not like we always want to be in the stage of working to get the thing. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where it like really that's where the true like engagement and I mean, people want things, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense to do that because you basically,
It's the classic journey is more important than the
Yeah.
destination, right?
Right.
And this is the constant kind of criticism leveled against games that make it too easy is that they instantly cry no end game content.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, there's no end game content. Well, it's like, well, yeah, there's actually a lot of it. It's just everybody's doing the same stuff, so people don't feel like it's special.
Right.
And they don't put the value on it or whatever. And part of it is also kind of like, you know, the IKEA effect of you got somebody who spent 80 hours staring at a blank field, and when they get that drop, they're like, they feel an attachment to that item that somebody that just got it from completing a quest or like found it in a chest wouldn't have
Yep.
because they put in the time, they put in the effort,
Yeah.
they got the thing.
Right.
They're like, look at this thing that I got. Like,
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
this.
yeah,
as opposed to just like, oh yeah, I opened a chest and it was there. I got lucky.
Right. Even for me playing yesterday, like it was more exciting waiting for the monster to pop than it was to get the items.
Right. Yeah. You get the item and you're just like, now what?
Yeah. I'm like, oh shit, there it is. Let's fucking get it.
Yeah.
Reminds me of this video I saw on Facebook of this kid, and he's like playing Pokemon, but he's got like 6 like Game Boy Advance SPs set up, and he's like got them all running in the same like patch of grass, looking for this like rare Ponyta or something. And he finally gets it.
What are
he
they,
just
like
starts
the
screaming.
shinies? I think they're called.
Yeah, it's like or silver or something.
Shiny Pokemon. I don't know.
Shiny
But he just like
It's a new thing I
lost
don't really
it.
know about.
He's probably been sitting there for like 8 hours. He's got all like 6 characters running in the same circle.
multi-boxing, basically.
Yeah. And he just lost his mind.
No,
He's like,
that's,
I got it.
It's an interesting point you make, because I think that's an interesting thing that actually, I think that's why I find Pokemon less interesting now, is because like you have all these like rare Pokemon and stuff in the game, but like everybody can get them.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like 99% of the Pokemon, or maybe even all of them, like they're not hard to get. Right. Very easy.
But do you think that most people still feel the achievement from that? Or
I don't know.
like we are weirdos that don't?
I don't know. It's hard for me to judge, because like I definitely did when I was a kid, but there wasn't like internet and stuff. You couldn't trade online.
Yeah.
It was either I get them all or I don't get anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I couldn't just go online and trade to get the other ones.
Yeah. So are you going to keep playing Final Fantasy?
Yeah, for me it's like great downtime from work stuff, because like I can just kind of zone out. And for like me, that game feels a lot like hiking in a lot of ways, right? Again, it goes back to like a lot of like instinctual feelings it kind of pulls out of me, where that game, like you do a lot of running around, but I kind of enjoy that, just the traveling aspect around.
Yeah,
it's like pretty open world, right?
Yeah, I don't like flight paths or teleporting and shit like that. Like I always prefer like actual traversal of the space.
Yeah. Well, what was cool about Final Fantasy XI is like, say you did take a flight path on like you'd have to take an airship, was it would work like an airport does, right? Like you have to wait for the ship and come and pick you up, and you get on it, and now you have to wait. You're in the sky flying and you're waiting on the ship.
Yeah,
and it for me it really just immerses you way more in the fact that you're in this fantasy world that's thriving and living, right?
Right. That's exactly it. And like that's what appeals to me about MMOs is like it's the fact that other people are around, that even if I'm not playing with them, my experience feels realer and more immersive, because it's being like I exist in a world way bigger than me with lots of other stuff.
Yeah,
you know, it's sort of like the tree falling in the woods kind of thing.
Right. You're all agreeing to take this airship ride and be like, yeah, we're going to this other place. You're kind of all going together.
Right.
You could probably strike up a conversation or play like a mini game or something like with the other people while you're going.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's like card games or dice games and that thing. That's where you kind of use those things. On the flip side, if you had that mechanic in a single player game, it would be unforgivable.
Right.
It would be literally unforgivable. If somebody's like, I got an airship, I had to wait 5 hours to get to my destination.
Yeah.
Like, this game is garbage, 0 out of 10 on that one thing alone.
But the thing I expect out of MMOs is basically just total escapism, right? Where I'm in another world. And I do like the downtime, and I think Final Fantasy XI did it really well, because there was a lot of downtime in that game, but it gives you time to converse with the people you're with, as opposed to, like a lot of other MMOs I played. Even Final Fantasy XIV, like, you don't really get a minute to chat with other players because you're constantly running, right? You have to, like, use the mouse to click on stuff. Final Fantasy XI, you have to have both hands on the keyboard.
Yeah.
And it sounds kind of weird, but also the amount of downtime in battle, right, allows you to type in chat to talk with the other players, right? So it was this kind of thing that I don't know. I really doubt they intended to design it that way, but it was something that I think came out by accident. But
it works really well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So keep us up to date on the adventures and misadventures of
I'll let you know how it goes.
14-year-old game.
I don't plan on dumping my life into it. Maybe a couple hours a week. Maybe like 5, I don't know. But I'll let you know how it goes.
Please do, because I love that stuff. Because I always want I'm still waiting on our cyberpunk multiverse fucking Oasis world to happen, and that's I guess part of what I like about MMOs and why I like hearing about them, because it's the closest thing we have to that.
Yeah, that's why they always appealed to me.
Yeah,
it's just to get lost in
that's the big
world.
that's like the holy grail right now.
Yeah.
Of
Classy.
caught it. That's the
Judged.
holy grail right now of basically what people are working on with VR is basically, can you make an MMO in VR?
Yeah.
And because then can you have that experience where you're traversing this wide open world where you're willing to take an airship ride because it's completely immersive and totally around you and in 3D, and you can see the distance, you can feel how high you are, but you're also on there with other people, and you could play a card game with them while you're on your trip. And when you can have that, the level of immersion is going to be
Insane.
1,000 times what you're talking about with Final Fantasy 11.
Oh, for sure.
Because you're going to be in it, it's going to be all around you. You're going to be able to recognize the other person's head movements, hand gestures, like their voice talking. Like you're going to feel like you're sitting across the table from somebody, even if it doesn't look like a person. Like it could look nothing like even what you'd recall a humanoid character even looks like. It could be a robot. It could just be floating arms, like hands and face. If you heard the person's voice and you could see how they're moving while they're talking, you're gonna just instinctually ascribe like, oh, I'm talking to another person. We're having an engaging conversation, and you can read their personality like completely through all that.
And even furthermore is you could turn that into almost like a lifestyle, basically, where you could work in and out of those spaces, right? You know, depending on what you do. So that could be interesting too, where you're just in that place.
Yeah, that'd be
A
crazy.
lot of your day, right?
I mean, people are already kind of toying around with like those teleconferencing things, or even like interviews, that kind of stuff, being able to kind of do them virtually to get a little bit more than like doing like a phoner or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the holy grail right now of kind of pulling off that Oasis Sword Art Online, like whatever it's going to be, where everybody can kind of just get sucked into it.
Yeah, be cool to like get on a spaceship with like only 200 people, and then like you're stuck on that ship for like 2 months before it gets to like another planet or something. Like those are the people you're with.
That would be interesting.
And you all die of malnutrition.
Yeah, and you all die, and your ship blows up, gets hit by an asteroid. Restart.
So another game that kind of gets at a lot of this stuff, but kind of goes the other direction with it, I would say, is No Man's Sky, which Tom has been playing
about this.
a lot of.
I would say a lot.
Really? Because right before this, you were telling me you were playing it a lot.
Well, yeah, I play it pretty much exclusively for time purposes, but yeah, I've been playing it a lot this week.
Yeah.
So
Thoughts?
Got a couple new planets under my belt. They're all still the same. Like, I hit this new galaxy. I have this problem where I go to like warp to a galaxy, but I accidentally warp to the wrong one, and it's like, once you go, you're fucked.
Because you have to get the fuel again or something. Yeah.
Right. So explain that a little bit, because as somebody who hasn't played, I've been hearing a little bit about this, where it kind of seems like they time gate your exploration, and by that I mean you fly into a galaxy and you get a handful of planets that you can reach within that galaxy.
Yeah, usually it's like 4 planets, 2 moons kind of deal.
To leave
within
that
the galaxy or like a solar system.
It's like solar system.
It's like a solar system. Okay. You go there. There's like 4 or 5 planets that you can mine or explore or do whatever. But basically, you're stuck there until you mine enough resources to fly out, and then you use those resources to go into a new solar system, and you're stuck there until you mine enough resources.
Yeah, you got to keep refueling your warp drive. It's like that's a complaint I've seen a lot is people got to do a lot of like grinding to get all the stuff, but it's not that big of a time commitment.
That kind of sounds like it makes sense though, because
like
otherwise
you could
people
do it
would
like
just be flying around from planet to planet.
Yeah, it forces
them
them to engage in an actual solar system.
I feel like if you had like absolutely no money, none of the supplies, you could probably do it in like half hour, 45 minutes.
But if you do already have some, it goes even
like
faster.
20
than that.
minutes, 15 minutes. It's not bad.
So it kind of gives you an incentive to go down to the planets, poke around, grab some fuel. Like if you want to stay there, you can stay there and keep exploring. But once you have enough, you could pop out.
Yeah, I just keep hitting like whole solar systems where they're all just dead. Like I've seen a couple of people land on planets, and there's kind of like a grass on the planet. There's a pretty good amount of creatures running around, and mine are just like it's a couple giant mushroom things.
It's probably pretty realistic.
Yeah. And
I think that's kind of cool.
But I mean, you see like
actually.
the planet he lands on in the trailer, and it's just grass, and there's like all these deer running around. That rhino thing like runs through and scares the shit out of everything.
Yeah.
And there's water. I'm like, someday I'll get there.
You haven't found any of those?
You're just in the mushroom desert.
Close.
Because I've heard the opposite. I've heard other people being like, every planet I land on is like crazy animals and stuff. Is like I haven't seen any like desolate landscapes yet.
They're lucky. I've just hit dead galaxy after dead galaxy. It's gross.
Solar system. Solar system, though, right? Not
Solar
galaxy.
system. Yeah, gotta get my science down. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Pretty much it. I mean, it sounds like you've been putting a lot of time in it for it to be pretty much it. You're just like, I land, it's dead there.
Got a new ship the other day.
Scrape up some dirt.
This one ship rolled in. It was like, I think it had 36 slots in it, which is the most I've ever seen. It was like $19 million. I think all the money I've had altogether was maybe like $4 or $5 million, and that's like going ham egg trying.
Is
to
that real money
So,
you've put into the game?
No.
Oh.
So the game
Yes.
loop, it sounds like fly to a planet, collect resources, fly off the planet, go to another one.
Yeah. I mean, if there was one that like had life on it, I'd probably like hang out and like
So
analyze it and like because there's like a page when you like name the new planet. It says like there's like slots for how many creatures you discovered, and there's like you get a certain amount of like money if you discover all
Now,
the creatures and all the plants.
Do the creatures do like different things? Like, do they act differently, or do they kind of all act the same? The creatures.
Yeah, they kind of like react to each other. There's ones that can like, there's ones that are more aggressive, so they'll
Yeah.
like attack smaller ones and stuff.
Okay,
Like I've never
all
seen
right.
one actually kill another one, but
Oh,
will they attack you?
oh yeah.
but just not each
most
other.
Most of my problem, I would like land on a planet and there's like this one crab creature that I kept running into. He'd be like a little different on each planet, but he's like hanging out in like the caves and he just come beat my ass out of nowhere.
Sounds like you're in a nightmare. Every planet
right?
you land on is desolate, and the same crab dude's there. Like, hey man,
I landed on this one and I was like right at like the trading post and I like got down to ground level and this like Pikachu looking dude, it's like Pikachu if he was on steroids and like hyper realistic. Just like walks out of these bushes and he's just kind of like maybe like 20 feet off, just kind of staring at me.
that sounds creepy.
Like, what the fuck is this thing? And I
Yeah.
like walk up to him and he just starts beating the shit out of me. He's just like this mean little ass.
Well, if you're
I shot
not
him.
finding, if you keep finding desolate landscapes and not like, what's keeping you playing?
The dream.
to
find-
right?
To find
that's
the
a great
good
example.
planet.
Yeah,
and then what?
that's the
I'm just gonna
wanting
live
we
there.
were talking about.
Just gonna live there.
Well, how does the game start when you turn it on?
You're just on some random planet. Your ship's all fucked up and you got to fix it. Get out of
Okay.
there. Like the planet I landed on had more life than anyone I've landed on so far.
Yeah.
And you can't like, it doesn't like you can name it, but it doesn't like save the location, so you can't like go back. Like you hop two solar systems, and it's almost impossible to like search to the map and figure out which one it is because there's just a million stars just hanging out.
I guess why would you want to go back? What's back? You know,
Yeah.
But
Especially
I really liked that dry,
But-
cracked planet. It's different than
with
this
the crab in
dry,
the
cracked-
cave that kicks
Yeah.
my ass.
But I went through my first black hole, I think, probably between the last podcast and now.
Did your legs look like spaghetti? Did you go in head first or legs first?
I went in probably legs first. I was in
Legs
the seated
first.
position.
Did you have spaghetti legs?
I don't know. I can't see them.
Did your head get crushed?
But
No, that's
game
not,
crashed.
That's not how it works.
That's
you don't
what
get
happened.
Spaghetti legs.
The game
You
just
get cut in
crashed.
half over and over again until you have a single file line of atoms going into it.
No, you
That-
get
that
spaghetti legs
resembles
first, though.
spaghettified.
You
get
they
spaghetti legs
You get
first,
spaghetti legs. They get pulled out. I was just reading an article about black holes yesterday.
You get elongated, but the tidal forces actually rip you in half.
Is this how spaghetti's
Yeah,
made?
but it happens slowly. But
Right. Well, you get stretched, but you never get
called
to the
the
point where
pasta
it's
effect.
completely spaghettified.
Yeah, but
but the term spaghettification comes from like once you've been ripped a bunch of times, it goes kind of single file and you all get stretched out into like this big long line.
yeah,
that a real
eventually.
science
But
term,
I'm saying at first
spaghettification?
you'll see like your legs stretch out like 40 million miles, right? Maybe. We'll see.
No,
Tom, we're
only-
gonna send you
but
in a black hole.
I
Need to
s-
report on this.
For science
know how it
purposes,
goes.
I survived going through all of the game crashed, and then I had to figure out where that black hole was again, and that took about 15 minutes, and then I went through it again, and then I got there. And what's kind of weird is like you'd think it's gonna jump you like pretty far through the universe because that's how they work apparently. And I'm still hanging out with the same species of aliens, and there's like, I know there's 3 that I know of. I've only found 2 of them. There's like the Gek, which are like these little reptile dudes,
Yeah.
and then there's the Korvax, which is like Daft Punk just running around, and they're assholes. Like this dude, like
Why are they Daft Punk?
they just look like Daft Punk. They have like his helmet and everything.
Really?
And I walked up to one in a space station, and like he's freaking out, and then it like does this little text box, and it's like, He's trying to put a needle into my head with some green goo coming out of it. Do I let him? Do I take the needle? Or do I stop him?
Oh, wait, so
I don't want to get stabbed in the head, so I'm just going to take the needle. And he gets all pissed off. And then it's like, your standing with the Corvax has decreased.
There's other intelligent life in the game.
Good. What?
There is other intelligent life in the game?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
There's
I
no,
didn't
like,
either.
totally civilized planets, though.
Really?
That I know of.
Oh.
They're just kind of like half civilized. There's like little base camps on them, but
Right, but there's no like capital planet with a capital city.
no, there's no cities or anything.
Or nobody's found it yet.
Yeah.
Womp, womp, womp.
That thing Pat
Along
was
with the
talking about, those
multiplayer.
like snake creatures that are in the sky that like nobody's found. I found like 3 planets with them in like different variations, so I don't know what everybody else
Dude,
is
you
having
need to
issues.
get this info out on the internet.
I know, I was going to screenshot and be like,
You should.
son,
You'll be
Found
famous. You could probably just retire
Yeah.
with money.
give me
Somehow.
money. I'll tell you where the planets are. I've just like given up on naming too. Like I've seen a lot of people just stop naming things. I'm just like naming them as specifically as I can. I'm like, this planet sucks. The moon says don't go here either.
I'm sure that would get kind of boring after a while.
Yeah, I ran out of creative things like 2 solar systems in.
Yeah.
I named one like Vietnam Winter because it looked like Nam, but it was like cold. Jungle.
No, I like it's like the notes in a bottle. It's where it's like somebody else comes across that planet and it's like, this planet sucks, so says Tom. Moon sucks too, leave system now.
Have you found
Nothing
a
to see
planet
here.
that's already been named?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I've seen people that have, but I haven't yet.
I mean, the system is set up such that they can kind of just keep generating stuff. And the fact that they're really just kind of sharing an online database and people aren't running around on the same planet together. I mean, what are the chances? Who knows?
Yeah.
It really comes down to how they're rolling their RNG of like when you jump to a new solar system, is it going to jump you to one that's been discovered before, or is it going to roll a new set? Because that's basically how it works. It's like anytime you jump, if nobody's been there before, it generates it right then. Like it doesn't exist before you go there.
Right.
Like as you're warping in, it's creating the solar system, and then it just saves it.
I don't know if it's just like me either, but there's like this weird like word of mouth thing. That's how you learn how to play it. Like my girlfriend's dad's playing it, and I was like watching him play for a couple minutes, and he's got like 30 slots in his suit, and I've got like 6, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, oh, every planet's got this little pod that lands on it that's got a suit upgrade, and you just find it and then do it. So now I'm going to every planet trying to find the suit upgrade. So now I've got
I like that.
30.
Yeah, I like that.
That sounds
too.
really
I
cool.
mean, it's probably like online somewhere, but I don't really give a shit.
Yeah. But I hope this game turns out to be people discovering stuff for like, you know, a while. Like months later, we're going to keep hearing like, oh shit, we found this thing in No Man's Sky. I've never seen one of these, and nobody had ever seen it.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm hoping they're, like, sneaking shit in with updates.
That's the dream. The dream is that the dev team basically is playing the long game, and they're like, all right, people are going to be really kind of like they're going to be disappointed, but just to the point we were just talking about earlier is if you make everything like every second planet you jump to is inhabited by the Corvax, and it's like their capital planet, like then it'd be like whatever. But if you make it super, super rare and you just play the law of like large numbers, and you're like, eventually somebody's going to warp into this. Like, we're not going to make them do it. We're not going to make it happen. We're not going to force it. But just if we just guess on the probability, somewhere between 3 months and 6 months in, somebody's going to warp into like the Corvax's home planet, and they're going to go ham on the internet and be like, oh shit, I found Corvax's home planet. Like, there's this galactic senate there, and like there's these like palatial intrigue and like all these crazy systems that people didn't even know were in the game yet because like they weren't finding like civilized planets.
Right.
But because they're so rare, it becomes like kind of a thing where it also like it inspire people to keep exploring.
I seriously doubt that. That's what they're doing.
That's the dream,
would be
though, right?
cool,
That's the dream that like they're just holding it back. They're trying to keep people, you know, they don't want to. If everybody just found, you know, all the ultimate stuff day one, then it's not special. Just like you're just talking about. But if you want it to be truly kind of,
they're being kind of sneaky with the updates. Like there's an update yesterday, and like I tried to look up what they're fixing or doing, and there's just nothing on it. So I mean, they could do whatever they want.
I mean, that's the other thing. They could do that. They could basically, at some point, just like, you know, okay, we notice our player base is starting to, like, the initial wave is starting to, like, we've hit the crest, and people are starting to quit the game. Like, inject galactic center now.
Yeah.
Like inject, civilization, like inject, intergalactic war now. And now people start finding like the Korvax and the Gex are like battling in space and shit. Like shit that wasn't happening.
I did roll into a space battle and I wasn't impressed by how it went down. There's all these ships attacking this cargo ship, so I start shooting them down, and like one stray laser hit the cargo ship. So then all of a sudden, I'm the bad guy, and they're fucking me up.
Oh, I'm the asshole.
I get shot down by like everybody. It was like,
Wait, does the gravity change or anything like that on the planets?
no.
Oh, really?
Are there weather systems?
There's weather
weak.
systems.
Yeah, I think I asked this
I
before.
landed at one planet that I found that was like almost what I wanted, like life-wise and stuff. It's just like extreme toxicity and like you can't go in the water because you'll just melt basically.
That's kind of cool.
You want that?
No.
Oh, that's what you don't
there's
want.
lots of life and
Me
stuff,
neither.
but I can't like stand there for more than 15 minutes without just dying.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I had to roll out.
That is kind of cool having like the different levels of danger in the environment.
Yeah,
like some
like-
of them are just kind of desolate and you're just kind of walking around. They're like Mars or whatever. And then there's other ones that are teeming with life and things that can kill you.
Right.
That aspect is definitely cool. Just like the sheer variation you could get. How deep it goes beyond that is still, I guess, up for discussion or whatever's going to happen next. I still have my fingers crossed that those guys have some stuff kind of tucked away that people haven't found yet, and because it's only been out for a week or something like that, not
Yeah.
even.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see.
But definitely interesting just from also just the social aspect of how this freaking game got built up, and the fact that they weren't answering questions kind of clearly in the lead up and let people's imaginations run wild. It's still kind of a confusing thing of like why they let people work themselves up into a certain frenzy that they knew they could not deliver on.
I just like the story aspect where like you could run into something that nobody you know is going to run into, and then you can like go out and be like, yeah, I found this thing.
Yeah.
The shit out of me that was really cool.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa.
The sheer chance, like that's the thing, like not to beat the horse, but like that's the sheer chance that like there's these systems in there that are just super rare and like really interesting, so that like not everybody's gonna get them, but when people start finding them, like really interesting stories will come out of the game.
Yeah. Like a creature with 1,000 legs.
Mm.
You heard about that one? I found it.
I don't believe you.
I didn't play it.
But I found it.
I found it in my basement last night. It's called Millipede.
Yeah.
But I think what you're going on to, that would be interesting if they did have stuff that didn't follow the general preset mechanics for the creatures, because there has to be like some kind of fundamental systems as to how they're building the creatures and the plants and stuff, right?
And that's
So-
what took so long. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why it was in dev for so long, because they had this kind of procedurally generated system going like 2 years ago. It was just
Yeah.
a matter of like tuning it to the point
Making
where
all
it
those
wasn't
assets,
just
I can't even imagine.
it wasn't just murdering people or making it make sense or like even kind of sense. I mean, you already see some of the pictures coming out of the game that people are finding, like the animals it's generating and stuff. As much as people complain about certain things, it's generating some really wild stuff.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine just sitting there and making like 5,000 different heads. And even 5,000 is probably not enough.
Well, partially,
I don't think
the
they
systems
modeled
are-
like that many heads, right?
No.
I think they just gave it like certain parameters.
more like
certain
10 or
parameters.
20.
There's some procedural mesh generation
Yeah.
going on where they're actually like generating heads on the fly.
Oh, yeah?
Like different shapes
Yeah.
that conform to certain rules and whatnot.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Somebody posted like a Bananasaurus monster they found the other day. It was like had 4 legs, but the head was kind of like this weird. It totally looks like a banana, just kind of like almost like a peeled banana. Just picture like a big arc, but like that's the animal's head. It's
Yeah.
weird kind of, and yeah. So I highly doubt some 3D modeler built that. That's
Yeah, you
kind of like
couldn't-
an output of some crazy generation rules.
It's not nearly enough capital to do that.
Yeah, and you're not going to burn your resources and be like, okay, it's Tuesday. Today I want you to make the Bananasaurus.
There's a 0.001 chance everybody's gonna find this, but we're still gonna pay you to do it. Yeah, no fucking way.
But I mean, if you just play like those numbers, man, I mean, how many people bought the game? I mean, it's already like a million seller, right? Like on
Is it?
just
Like,
on like the
as-
PC alone or something like that. I think
As
it was,
rare
like,
as these cases are, when you're just brute forcing the numbers,
yeah,
gonna
if you
happen.
make something 0.001% possible,
Right.
like it's already been found 1,000 times.
yeah.
So, but by a very small percentage of the people, but the absolute numbers still there's a lot of people that are seeing certain things.
Yeah, it's like your chances of winning the lottery are small, but somebody wins it, you know? Like it happens.
Yeah.
I wish there was a better system of buying ships. That's probably my main complaint, because you just got to stand in that hangar for hours and just wait for the one you like.
Here's
to
the
roll
other
in.
thing: like, what does your ship do that's different? Like, say you buy a different ship. What can a new ship do that your old ship can't?
Is it as bad as Destiny?
It's the slots, like how many storage slots you have. Like,
So basically, just storage capacity.
yeah.
Like how much mining ore you can carry with you when you leave.
You could, I don't, as far as I know, you can't like upgrade it for the ship that you have currently. Like if you bought one that's got 16 slots, it's got 16 slots for life.
Confirm or deny: when you enter the atmosphere of a planet, basically it goes on autopilot. You can't crash your ship.
You can't crash it.
What?
You can crash into space stations. That's kind of fun. Especially when you're going, you're like warping through space, and you like go to a new galaxy or a new system, and the first thing you hit is usually the space station. And your ship's just like flailing all over because like the shields deflect off each other.
But when I go into the atmosphere, if I want to like barrel roll through a canyon and like fly through it,
There's
and,
like a
fly my ship into a cave and smash
there's like
it
a
into
buffer.
a wall. 'Cause that's what I want to do.
You can't touch the ground.
Like,
It'll
it takes-
autopilot you over
It
it.
forces you to a certain altitude.
Yeah.
And it basically hugs the ground at that point.
And that's another thing I hate is like if there's like those big floating like chunks of copper, you can't mine them from your ship. You have to like get out and do it by hand. And it just takes fucking forever.
Just taking the stick from me is just a mortal sin for me. Like,
Yeah.
If you take
I wanna crash.
you take my ability to pilot the ship away, then what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I can't abide that.
Like,
Yeah.
there's a certain point where you can pilot it, but they take it away at a point too. Like you can't crash into shit,
That's
but
silly.
you can roll and shoot other people down and just be a dick. You can't be a dick and crash into things.
Well, speaking of worlds that didn't do a lot for me, played some Hyper Light Drifter, but it wasn't recently. It was a little while ago. But you, Anthony, beat the game, right?
Yeah, when it came out.
So tell me what you thought about it. What's your high level view of this game is in broad strokes what?
It's difficult.
Yeah. In a fun way?
I don't know if I'd call it fun.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm not really a huge fan of that term anyways, right? Like me camping monsters in Final Fantasy XI yesterday wasn't exactly fun, right?
Well,
But
right. It's not actively
I know what you mean.
fun,
All right, I'm
but
not
it's
going to
like,
get into semantics over here.
We'll
But
just go with engaging. I like that.
yeah, no, I mean, I played through it. It kept me engaged, but I think it really left me wanting more as to what was going on. It seemed really interesting at first. Like it seemed like there was something that they were setting up some sort of story and context. And then as you play through the game, like you kind of quickly realize that there's nothing to it.
Right.
It's
And
just
it has a loaded air of mystery that
Right.
after you spend some time in it, just kind of falls flat, right? And you're just like, oh.
It feels like a series of disconnected moments.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing really tying anything together. There's a lot of visuals in there that don't play any part of the gameplay, or apparently the story. Like there's big monsters, but I don't know what the hell they're doing in there. I don't know what any of that means, right?
Yeah, right.
And maybe I'm taking the game too literally, right? But I feel like it kind of set itself up to be taken that way. I'm not really sure.
No, I feel
don't
like the
know.
delivery
Yeah.
was implying that there was a story here.
Yeah.
And if you just explored and carefully analyzed the world, you would find it.
Right.
But I never found that to be true on any scale.
Yeah, I never felt like anything was strong enough for me to kind of latch onto and let me think about what was going on.
Yeah.
Which I think could have been really good if, there was an interpretive element of it, but there just wasn't really anything that tied anything together to make me think a little bit, to wonder what's going on here.
Why
It was
this
just
world is the way it is.
Right. It's just kind of like, all right, this dude's sick and there's a shadow dog. And every time I beat a boss, he coughs and he gets sicker.
Yeah.
And then there's big monsters. And like I don't really like the idea of just having a series of moments that hopefully connect together, because they didn't.
Sounds like Arkham City.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting.
I haven't played that one. I don't know.
Me neither. But one thing about it, though, I found that shed a lot of light on it that I don't know you could decipher without this backstory is the developer. I saw a mini documentary that talked about where the developer basically
he had like some sort of heart condition.
Yeah,
right?
he has a heart problem and
pills.
it's basically like this sickness that is just perpetual and always sort of looming over him, like this dread and this like, you know, like I guess to him it probably feels like there is a monster always chasing him, and I think this game is a interesting metaphor for that.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see those correlations.
There's a lot of imagery of like hearts and stuff like that throughout the game and disease and stuff. And that put a lot of things into perspective that otherwise didn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think it ever says anything more than it sucks to feel this way. It never builds a world aside from that, you know? And I'm not saying it should have, but well, maybe I don't know. I was kind of expecting it to, and I felt like it was implying that it was going to.
Right. I think that's what kind of threw me off about it. It kind of gave the idea that it was supposed to be this game with a bit more, at least emotional range to it.
Yeah.
And kind of more to discover and understand. Yeah. And then it wasn't that at all. And, you know, that's his game. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, totally. Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to tell him how to make his game.
No.
It's just... It's hard to judge something when you're expecting one thing.
Right.
In which you should always go in something without any expectations.
As little as you can.
Yeah, but, you know, that's hard, especially like when you make claims that it's like a Zelda game or Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Something like that. Games that are very... make sense literally in a lot of ways. I don't know. It was interesting. I like the gameplay mechanics. I think they did some interesting stuff with it.
Yeah, the mechanics were good. It's a fucking tough game.
It is. It can really beat the shit out of you at some points, like in an unfair way.
Yeah, you think how?
Well, you like, I don't know. There's like some projectiles and stuff that you can't really see.
Yeah.
And so like you're just taking damage. You're like, I don't even know what the fuck hit me.
Oh, that's not cool. Yeah.
Stuff like that got kind of aggravating.
Yeah.
But they did do a thing where it's like you respawn right there and you can go at it again.
Ryan and I, Ryan Mallett, who's on this podcast, sometimes we're playing it, but we played it co-op, which was really interesting. Mm-hmm. And we really beat our heads against one of the bosses for a while, and I couldn't like the interesting thing. The co-op is actually very interesting because the way that works is there's like player one. And the way that you bring in your partner is you give up a tick of health, and there's like 5 ticks of health or something, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
You sacrifice one, and then it spawns him, but his health is full. And it's really interesting because you get this like almost shield dynamic with your partner, where your partner becomes this expendable sort of hyper, like the way we played it, like Ryan would be hyper aggressive, and I would kind of hang back and dodge, and I would help, but like my goal was to preserve the health.
Yeah.
And then, he would just go in and just go fucking nuts on the guys. And it was really kind of cool to play that way. It was almost like a class system that emerged. And I really liked that. I thought
that sounds like an interesting dynamic game setup.
It was definitely like novel and unique. I don't know for long-term engagement how that would work, but it's probably fine.
Yeah, actually, I really like the health system in that game. The way they did it, where you don't get, what was it, like 5 slots of health. And that was the max you'd ever get. I mean, you could get more like healing kits.
But you could only hold up to 3 healing kits.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can only take like 5 hits, which was kind of awesome because it'd always keep you in check. And they had a way to like balance out the game where this is how it was always going to work, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like what all the damage is based off of. It was like you only being able to take this small amount of hits.
Right.
As opposed to something like Zelda or Metroid, where you can just build up your heart meter or your energy tank, right? And like especially like a game like Metroid Prime, where you'd get all of them, and like you were basically impossible to kill.
Yeah.
Right. Which is kind of an awesome feeling, but I think this game kept it in check, where you were always, aware of being hit, right? There was never any point in that game where I was playing where I was okay with getting hit, right? It was always a danger.
And there's also
really cool.
It leads to this like tension you get out of, okay, well, I only have 3 health out of my 5, and I could heal, but then I'm wasting, because it heals you all the way, right? So if you use a heal when you're 3 out of 5, that's not very efficient way to use your healing kit.
Yeah.
So you basically have to say,
then you're wasting one, basically.
right? You basically are like, okay, am I going to run around half cocked, like very vulnerable because I have this resource to protect,
right?
Or is it more worth it to keep my health up? And so it just meant that you stayed very vulnerable, and
you're always vulnerable,
right?
Which is really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting little system that really added a lot of strategy to how you played.
Yeah. I definitely liked the gameplay. I just felt like it looked like there was more to it. It was just kind of lacking, like the creatures, and like there was like a main city, but there was like nothing to do there.
Yeah,
you couldn't really interact with anything.
Yeah,
that wasn't interesting.
Well, some of that too was that the game has no dialogue or words.
Actually, I did like that.
Me too.
I did like that.
Yeah, actually, even there were times where I didn't understand what was happening because the game was being cryptic with these symbols and things.
Yeah.
But even when that was happening, I'd rather a game be like that than have words and stuff.
Right. No, I think that part worked. I just didn't think there was enough tying it together. I don't know. I felt like there's too many missing pieces.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of cool to be able to come up with like your own conclusions as to like what something was about. Like I'm gonna use films for example, like something like David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, or even like a film like, I think I told you to watch it, Samsara, something like that, where there isn't like a traditional narrative.
Yes.
It's like more of like a meditative experience.
Yeah.
I think it could have been something like that, but still too many missing things where you just feel like you can't connect any of the pieces to even come up with your own
right. There was
conclusion.
like, it's always good to leave space for us to project ideas onto, but there was so little to go off of that it never, like, your imagination never really got going anywhere.
No, it never really took off. There was never any point where I was like, well, maybe it's this, or maybe it's that.
There was nothing to latch onto to try and explain.
Right.
It's just a series of like nondescript, fairly good looking like little scenes.
Yeah. Well, even like the little cutscenes in the game, it was like the same one over and over. You just get a little bit longer, which didn't reveal any more of anything. Like, I'm sure you saw. How many bosses did you beat?
Just the one, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know how there's like the little cutscene where it's something that comes out of the ground.
No,
he's
I
like,
don't remember.
No, he's in like a field of water. It's like a little shallow lake or something.
That happens every time?
That happens every time after you beat a boss, except they give you a little bit more to each one, but it's never more of anything, right?
It never amounts to anything?
Yeah, it's not like you're getting more to the cutscene where you can start to think about something. It's just like, okay, now this happened in the cutscene.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do think it's a good game that a lot of, it's worth your time over a lot of other games that are out. And
it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge. And if you're interested in design at all, I think it's a pretty good game to play because, you can read it a lot. There's a lot of systems in there that I think are very valuable, but the way that they're executed, I don't think quite adds up. Mm-hmm. But that's not to say it's a bad game. I think for me,
it's just the story.
Yeah.
The context of the game. I think it's just, it kind of promises so much in a lot of ways, and then it's just completely lacking.
That's actually 100%. What I just said about the systems lacking, that's not true. The systems are actually pretty strong.
Yeah, I think the gameplay is great. It's a lot of fun to play.
It's that lack of like unifying narrative and world cohesion that really bums me out too. Yeah.
It reminds me of like a Titan Souls a bit in that manner, where there was nothing to tie the game together.
Yeah. It's just this very like stoic feeling world, but with no purpose.
Yeah, and that game would be easier to talk about in that regard because that game has the same problem as I think Hyper Light Drifter, where like you have all these set pieces, and basically it's just moments, but there's no like scenes, right?
Yeah.
Nothing that really ties anything together. And Titan Souls would be easier to describe because it's basically like a ripoff of Shadow of the Colossus in so many ways. But Shadow of the Colossus has something that ties everything together and makes you wonder, like, what the hell is happening here?
Right.
Like, all right,
Yeah.
there's something going on. And there is, right?
Yeah, there's like a lesson almost, or there is a unifying theme there that these one-off situations end up not quite being one-off situations, right? Yeah.
Right. Everything's more thought out and designed around the context rather than Titan Souls feels kind of like it's like you just grab like 8 random pictures of like anything. Like one of them's pizza, one of them's a gorilla,
Yeah.
another one's a table.
Yeah.
Like 2 of them are like pictures of guys and a picture of a baby. And you like throw it on a board and you're like,
What does it mean?
look at that. What does it mean?
Yeah.
You know, what's the meaning of this story? And like you're trying to pull a story out of that and there's nothing there, right?
And versus, and this is actually a really good analogy because I think what you and I are longing for is taking pictures and then, I forget what you call it when you take pictures to make a bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
Like when you have all these smaller ones that when you pull back, you see a very detailed face.
Right.
But when you look up close, it's just individual pictures, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a really good, that's exactly, I think, the kind of thing you and I are trying to get at here, where these other games they never add up, right? Like there's never a bigger, I see where this is all going kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. And again, it doesn't have to be super literal, right? We have to understand it completely. But like,
Right. It doesn't have to come out and
some
say
stuff that actually ties some things together.
Yeah. It doesn't have to come out and definitively say this is what's happening in the world.
Right. Because
But-
that's lame.
Yeah,
When you're trying
right,
to send a
that's-
message with your game, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like, I don't like stuff like that in art where it's like trying to be, because then that turns more into like propaganda, basically,
Yeah.
right? Rather
True.
than art.
Yeah. That's true.
Man, now we're all over the place with these topics.
No. Well, these are, I don't know.
What
I
is
feel
life?
I feel like what we are disappointed by in these games kind of begs the question. So it's worth like being like, I think the conversation's pretty topical to like what's missing and what makes up the thing you and I are looking for, because it is very like enigmatic.
Right.
But I see what you're saying where it's not good for a game to like have an agenda. You're exactly right, because it does come off propaganda, because nothing
Any art, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like Mario RPG, that game is super propaganda. It wants
Yeah.
you to order pizza
And I did it, and that's all I order now is pizza. I started playing that game. I don't know what the hell's going on. It doesn't even mention pizza in the game.
yeah, I don't know. It's subtle. It's subtle.
It's incredible.
But you've been playing Mario RPG?
Yeah, I was trying to beat it, and then I picked up Final Fantasy 11. But I'm probably still going to beat it because it's a super quick game.
Yeah.
Like you rip through stuff so quickly in that game, it's insane. Like I remember being a kid and playing it. It felt like everything took forever. Like it was this huge world.
Yeah.
And I was playing the game for like, I don't know, maybe like 8 hours, and I'm already near the end. I'm like, holy shit, that was super quick.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane.
Yeah. I think that might be because like the graphics probably were very expensive in that game for the storage capacity, because it's like
Oh yeah.
the visuals are very like, I guess, advanced.
Yeah.
Or they seem to be to
that
me.
Game was mind blowing when it came out.
Right. Yeah, like they squeezed out of the Super Nintendo for that game was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a fun game.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of good stuff. I've never played it, but people who have played it seem to really like it. What do you like about it?
I like the fighting mechanics. I think the new Mario and Luigi games do it better.
Mm-hmm.
But in that game, like when you pick an attack, it's not just about picking the attack. You have to time stuff right too.
Yeah.
You do the attack to get like an extra damage boost, which you basically need to do in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a interesting mechanic to make things a bit more immersive. Now you could argue the other side, that's not what the game should be about. It shouldn't be about timing attacks and action. It should be more about strategy. But
Well, I think because it's
Mario
coming
game.
from the Mario angle,
Yeah.
that literal dynamic gameplay is completely appropriate, because because like Mario is all about that. That's
Right,
what
it's
Mario is.
an action
right?
game.
Yeah, so when
Right.
you start fusing that with RPG, I think that makes complete sense to go in that
Yeah.
direction with it, and actually would have been probably bad if they hadn't done it that
Yeah.
way, just considering. But like, it almost would make it meaningless to use then Mario just becomes a face of anything, right? Like, why is this a Mario game if there's not that element of it?
Exactly.
Yeah. But when you're talking, and I think you were telling me what you're talking about with this timing is like your attack will be something like you kick a shell in the air and then you kick it at the enemy or something.
Yeah.
And so the way
hit A twice.
yeah, you have
stuff
to
like
kick
that.
it up, and then when it comes down, you have to time it just right to kick it at the enemy. And the
Yeah.
better your timing, the more damage. And you
Right.
can do like a super kick, right? If you
Right.
get it perfect, and then it does a ton of damage.
It makes it more immersive for people who aren't used to RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never played a ton of RPGs, so I've played more action games. So when I play an RPG, it feels slow.
And it plays like an JRPG, more like a old Final Fantasy or something, right?
I don't know what the old Final Fantasies play like.
Sort of just like turn-based stuff where it's not like real-time combat. No, it's like, well, I mean, beyond those, like when you're executing an
this game's
attack,
turn-based completely.
right? And
Yeah.
right, exactly. Yeah.
But you just execute attacks, and then you can do a little something to get some extra damage out of it.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
But it's a fun little game to play. It's probably not the best game ever. It's not the best RPG for sure. But it's fun. It's interesting. Like the worlds are cool, and I think I want to say it was like maybe one of the first Mario games that did like actual world building for the game with characters and places and
Took the story beyond your princesses in another castle. Yeah.
I don't remember anything coming up before that. I don't know if the cartoon came up before that, but
So what's
might
the
have.
story?
basic Mario story.
Yeah.
Stars fall from the sky. Bad guy comes in,
Yeah.
takes over everything, beats him. But there's a lot of like smaller stories, which is basically the same thing as the larger story, just on a smaller scale.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to look back on when that game came out, see what they did with it.
Sounds like it was very like ahead of its time. Like it was a very forward-thinking game in a lot of ways.
I wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't play that many RPGs.
Well, you know, I think the mechanics, it was the first one to do a thing that Nintendo is still doing with like the Mario and Luigi games, I think, on the 3DS.
Yeah, I mean, they took the idea of like action turn-based mechanics to the next level. Like,
right.
in those games, you can dodge and defend. I think like every attack an enemy throws at you. So it becomes this turn-based action game, which is a lot of fun because they make you do different things with the buttons and the controls.
Mm-hmm. But that all came out of an idea like 20 years ago, and we're still executing on it. It seems like, yeah. So I feel like that's pretty impressive that they did that. But you know, that's
Right.
Nintendo in a nutshell. At the same time, they're always been pretty good like that.
Building up small things, basically. So what else have you been playing?
That's it, man. You know, nothing
it.
for me.
I can drop some Fallout knowledge as usual.
Yeah.
The Nuka-Cola World's coming out in 11 days. Trailer was pretty cool.
They're releasing a shitload of stuff for that.
Yeah, I think there's 6 DLCs for it.
Yeah.
This is the last one.
Oh,
So this is like the big one. It's like a lot of people have been comparing it to like Hershey Park,
Yeah.
like for like all the animatronic characters running around in there and shit. But it's basically a giant raider base. Like they all just hang out there. But the typical Bethesda fans are going apeshit over the tiny details. They're like, it's that orange Nuka-Cola in the background. They bringing back Nuka-Cola Victory. I'm like, is that what you're taking away from this?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about that kind of shit, but it looks
like,
pretty cool.
Whatever, right? Like, whatever. That could happen. Who cares? Just play the game and see what happens.
But I was just looking it up to double check the release date, and I just saw one of the top Google results was an article that said Nuka-Cola World. This is the end of Fallout or something, but like the way, like they're kind of putting it in a way that it's going to ruin the whole Fallout 4 franchise. Like Fallout's dead and Nuka-Cola World killed it.
What?
I'm like, it hasn't even come out yet.
Yeah.
What is it going to kill? It's like the Disney World full of raiders, and it's going to be just awful. I'm going to go in there and just fucking kill everybody. It's going to be amazing.
I mean, and you can always, like, no matter what they do, they could always just be like, yeah, well, that didn't really happen. Here's the new game. Like, you know, all this other shit never happened. This is what Fallout is now. You know, like, they don't have, you can't just, like,
there's no reason.
there's no irreversible conclusion.
It's a fictional world.
Right. It's exactly. It's not real. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty excited for it.
Cool.
Just new people to kill, you know?
We look forward to hearing what you find.
I'll get all the deets on that.
Yeah. Well, should call it a cast.
Yeah,
I gotta
talk
pee.
about more MMO stuff next time.
Yeah, I hope so. Because, I really like
I
hearing
could go
about
off on that game.
it. Huh?
I could go off on that game about so many interesting things about it that MMOs aren't doing now.
Well, do it. Play it. Think about it. Put it in
I'll take
podcast
some
thought.
notes.
No,
Yeah.
the Final
Streaming
Fantasy
it,
I
I don't
played
know.
was that one that came out for the Wii, like Crystal something.
Crystal Chronicles?
I think so. I don't know.
Was that it was single player though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea what the fuck was going on.
I
It's
never
like watching
played that
Bleach
one.
halfway through one of the seasons, and you're like, what is this? Who are these people?
I don't know.
Why
I
does
never
this
played
matter?
that one. I like the Crystal Chronicles games, but I never played that one.
Which one? Sorry.
The Wii one.
Basically, there was like a series
be
of
more.
Final Fantasy games just for Nintendo,
Uh-huh.
and it was like the Crystal Chronicles series.
Oh, okay.
There was the first one that came out for GameCube, which you had to play with the Game Boys to play 4-player. It's a 4-player action RPG,
Uh-huh.
which was a game I actually really liked because the world was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Then there was a couple. There's like 2 DS ones, the Wii one, which took like a total dive. It seemed like because it like wasn't. The other ones were multiplayer based. This one wasn't. It was like a single player adventure RPG or something. I don't know. I never played it.
I mean, it looked good
Yeah.
for a Wii.
Actually, you know,
for
that guy.
2006-ish
I
era.
think the guy who worked on the design for those games just passed away.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Making it heavy.
Yeah. That sucks, man. He's like a young dude too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's like 45 and like died in like some freak diving accident where he
Oh, no.
lost consciousness underwater.
Oh.
I don't
That's
know what it
sad.
was.
That's
yeah.
too bad.
It's an important thing. Stay conscious when you're underwater.
Yeah.
I try to.
Breathe.
I find it's better that
Yeah,
way.
breathe.
Yeah, breathe.
Breathe in that water.
No.
No, it's
Suit.
no.
I think they were like deep sea diving or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Rocking the bends.
talk more about MMOs next time.
Next time on Buffalo Game Space. Thanks for listening.
I gotta pee.
Check us out online, buffalogamespace.com, on Twitter at buffgamespace. Write us with questions, info@buffalogamespace.com.
Yeah.
Can I get
Bye.
out of here?
All right, bye.